started, we have talked about some of the other things in our PLC agenda, like the norms and objectives, but I'm going to go on and talk to you a little bit about a problem that I've seen in my classroom in kindergarten and some strategies that I've used to improve that. So we're using positive reinforcement to improve behavior. And this is just an overview of what you'll see on my PowerPoint. So we'll have the agenda, which you have, the vision statement. We always talk about that right before we get started, just to refresh our norms and objectives. And then we'll talk about the problem in kindergarten, the article that I found to back that up and show, what we can do to help the behavior issues. And then the implementation of how I'm going to use the article in my classroom. And then I have 2 intervention strategies that I'm going to talk about, my data analysis, the next steps, and then my references. So this is our agenda, and we've already talked about our norms and objectives, and we've talked about our skills that we've been working on this week and the assessments. And so now it's time for us to talk about what I've been using in my classroom. We're going to discuss the progress that my students have made in behavior, and if you guys would want to use this in your classroom too. So just to kind of refresh our vision statement, we always want to start our PLC meeting with this, so we want to just make sure we're all on the same page. The vision of Whitesville Elementary School's kindergarten PLC team is to collaborate to create strategies that meet the academic, social, and emotional needs of our students, and we will provide purposeful and effective instruction and learning experiences so that our students thrive as they become lifelong learners. So the problem that I noticed at the beginning of the year in kindergarten was we were having a lot of students at the end of the day moving their clips to yellow and red, and then they would have to, call their parents, make a parent contact, or it would be an office referral. So I think a lot of it was, maybe just coming into kindergarten, but we talked about all of the different expectations that I had, and I just have a picture over here. These were just kind of some of my rules. We want them facing forward, eyes looking, ears listening, hands in lap, and crisscross. But some of the reasons that they were moving their clip included, calling out, not following directions, not keeping their hands to themselves, arguing with either the teacher or other classmates, and refusing to work, and instead of working with our manipulatives, they were playing with them, especially in math. So at the beginning of the year, I saw a lot of that, and that resulted in an office referral or a parent contact. So I was researching some articles on what can I do. This class was just different than any other classroom that I've had before. I have 20 kids and 14 of them are boys, so they're very active and they want to talk a lot. So I had to do some research for myself, and the article that I found was called The Implementation of Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports in Louisiana. So this was all in Louisiana, but I found 2 really good quotes that I thought was very interesting. But the first one says, the time that teachers spend correcting the student behavior absorbs the instructional minutes. And I think that's so true. When teachers spend less time addressing those concerns, the behavior concerns in the classroom, there's so much more time that they can spend learning and talking with each other and growing. So I've seen that a lot. I mean, a lot of the time I'm up here teaching and I have to stop and ask somebody not to do that, or hey, you're not making a good choice. So each time, it not only distracts them, but then it distracts me. I'm like, what do I need? What was I teaching? How do I keep moving on? So the next one that I found, it said, although the behaviors are handled immediately, the reactive practice is based on the classic principle of negative reinforcement. So what that meant to me was, yes, you're handling it right then and there, and you might say, don't do that, go move your clip. That's reactive, and what that means is, unfortunately, it's only going to help them temporary. So the reduction of the behavior is temporary, but then long term, the behaviors are going to resurface, and so it might come back even at higher rates and even more violent. So if I just say, no, don't do that, go move your clip, and not really talk about why or praise them when they are doing the right thing, then it could result in even worse behaviors. my classroom, it just allowed me to realize that I need to start focusing on more positive behaviors instead of all of the negative behaviors. So I just kind of took it upon myself to notice, oh, Tommy over here is always doing the right thing, but I never say his name because he's not acting out. So I want to praise him, and then all the other ones will want to, it'll motivate them to try to be like Tommy. And then I focused on positive behaviors by allowing the students to move up. So in our CLIP system, they're now able to move back up. And the students really enjoyed the fact that they were able to correct their mistake instead of being stuck with that the rest of the day. The first strategy that I was using, like I talked about, is moving their CLIP back up. So I said the positive reinforcement with the behavior stick. This is what our behavior system was at the beginning of the year. And at first, it was just moving their CLIP and they stayed there the rest of the day. However, the next time that we implemented my strategy in September, we started out on blue, and they were moving their CLIPs if they were doing some things that were wrong, but I always wanted them to know, hey, it's okay. You can make your day better. You don't have to stay here all day. You can move back up. So they were encouraged to be proactive and make better choices so that they didn't have to stay there the rest of the day and their day be ruined. And the next intervention strategy that I started to use and implement, and I actually just started that in October, so this is kind of new and fresh, but I was noticing that a lot of the students that were moving back up did better, and that's great. However, the students that just always did the right thing, they were never getting in trouble, they were not getting praised as much, and they didn't have anywhere else to go on the CLIP system. So I started using the positive reinforcement with more colors on the behavior stick. So this is a picture of our new chart, and it has more colors. It starts with purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. And the students will start out on green. So that way they can either move up for those that are, doing the right thing, always showing me what to do, and then you can move down. So just I liked how there were more options. But I added the purple, so those students that I never have to get onto or ask to, or give them warnings, they could actually move back up and be praised. And then I also added the orange underneath the yellow because that gave the kids one chance before it was a consequence. So I wanted to make sure, you have two mistakes before there's a consequence instead of just, that was it, now you have to sit out in free time. So the orange CLIP means that you have to sit out a couple of minutes in free time, and the red is still a parent contact. This is a little summary of the data that I've been tracking, and if you look at my bar graph, it shows August, September, and October, and it basically tells me the percentage of students that were on track with blue and green. So those students that, I didn't have to have them move down, and they were not on the yellows, oranges, or reds. And in August, like I said, that was before we started the clipping up system, and half of my class, 50% of my students, were on track with blue and green. In September, when I implemented the moving up, they could move back up if they were making good choices. It did increase, and it went to 65%. And then I've noticed in October, I know it's early in October, but I've already noticed just a big growth in that because now a lot of my students are ending their days on purples, blues, and greens. It just gives them 3 options to stay on track. And then over here, it just tells you 10 out of 20 were the students that were on blue and green in August. In September, 13 out of 20. And in October, 16 out of 20. So that's really increased. I'm really impressed on how they've been working and motivated. So after all of that is implemented, I still think, well, what else can I do? I think they'll just, once the students get used to some things, I want it to keep them engaged and keep them excited about it. So after seeing a growth in my students' behavior, I want them to track their behavior. So every student has a leadership notebook, and then in tab 1, that's where we track our goals. And I want their goals to be a behavior goal. And in August, they went back and they showed how many days they were on blue, how many days they were on green, yellow, and red. And then in September, they could see if they improved. And then the October one will be a little bit different because that's when I added the different colors to it. So we'll have to tweak this a little bit to make it say how many number of days they were on purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. And then another thing that I'm really excited about, and this is just the first week that we've implemented this, but I want to try a VIP table just to ensure that the students are motivated, and only the students that are on blue and purple can get to the VIP table. So I just want something that's fun and different, just to keep them excited and engaged and motivated.
I know if I was a student, I'd want to sit here.
I mean, it is pretty cool. I think it's neat.
I think the extra colors help too, and I think the parents will like that more, just showing that they have more of a chance, like with the green, blue, and
Yes.
purple, thinking at least they have 3 chances to stay good.
Yeah, and I liked the fact that there are more options that they can be on,
Right.
just because when we had blue, green, yellow, and red, if they made one mistake,
Right.
you know, they're already on green. So I liked, and I also liked how they start at green.
Right.
So if you want to move up, if you want to be on blue, you've got to show me something to prove that you can be on blue. And then this is just where I found my article, but you guys already have a copy of that. So there's a lot of really good information on it, and I really hope that you would think about implementing this in your classroom.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.